And we have a Prime Minister. Who seems to be now obsessed with me. No, not in that way, I promise you. Every Prime Minister's questions, all he can do is hurl abuse. And this is because never before has a government with a big majority collapsed in public opinion and public trust as quickly as Starmer's government. He doesn't believe in a single thing. He's a man without principles. He is not a leader. He is bad for Britain. But the good news is he won't be long for the job. Now, he makes me laugh, actually. The weakest Prime Minister that I can think of in my lifetime now calls me spineless. But he does come out with some very serious accusations. He throws the charge of racism at us and at me. Funny, isn't it, according to The Guardian, how some of the people I was at school with 49 years ago seem to have such good memories. But the one serious point I will address, as we're here in Wales, and you've seen it all over the Welsh media, is the issue of Nathan Gill, who was a long-time UKIP, MEP and Brexit Party, and briefly, in 2021, albeit very briefly, he was leader of Reform Wales. Now, the fact that he has taken money, has taken bribes to ask questions from a Russian influencer is, of course, an absolute and total disgrace, and we disown his actions, and we disown what he's done in every single way. I'm not afraid to stand up and say that, because it is the truth. But you know what? You know what? Being honest is the right approach. But just think about this. Okay, we found somebody who was in the European Parliament for previous parties that was corrupt. That of itself in British politics is not exactly unique. And think about this. This government, one of their MPs has taken £500,000 in payment to his office from somebody that we now know is a Chinese spy. Think of this, that we're about to approve the new mega embassy for China to be built on the site of the old Royal Mint on Tower Hill. Think of those two spies in Parliament, and charges against them suddenly were mysteriously dropped. If I've had a problem with one corrupt individual, we as a country have a problem with a government that appears to be in hock to the Chinese Communist Party, and that is against our national interests and ought to be investigated and brought out into the open. And then we've got the Conservative Party. Do you remember them? They used to be rather popular here in North Wales, but of course their record in government, and particularly after 2019, when in post-Brexit Britain there was so much optimism, but Boris failed us in every single way. In fact, if you think about the state of the British economy, the highest taxes since the end of World War II, open door mass migration, 4 million people came during the time that Boris Johnson was Prime Minister, despite all the promises to reduce the numbers. The boats crossing the English Channel. Well, don't say they weren't warned, because I was going out there in 2020 again and again, warning about what was happening, predicting. predicting, and I said in 2020, unless we acted on this, there would be an invasion. Well, you'd have thought from the press reception that I ought to have washed my mouth out with soap and water. But 180,000 people later, I was right to identify the problem, right to say what would come to this country, and right to predict the correct level of public anger at the waste of money and the risk to national security of tens of thousands every quarter of unidentified young males coming into Britain. It is a complete disaster, and the Tories let it all happen, and frankly, the Rwanda plan could never ever work, just as Shabab Mahmood's plan can't work, because none of them face up to the facts. We are signed up to a convention that was written in a post-war world. The European Convention on Human Rights might have been well-intentioned 75 years ago, but it now stops us being a proper country, because proper countries control their borders. So there was a long list of Tory failures, and I think public trust in them has evaporated, and I don't see it coming back at all. I think their 200-year journey has come to an end, and I believe that we now, in Wales and across the rest of the United Kingdom, we have now replaced the Conservative Party. We are the force of opposition against the Labour government in Westminster and Cardiff. We are the opposition now. And yet, the Tory chairman last night, Kevin Hollingrake, puts out on social media and compares our supporters, our members, to those who in the 1930s joined the Nazi Party. Not only is it insulting and wrong, but it's actually insightful and dangerous given the world we live in. Just think, that's exactly what they were saying about Charlie Kirk in the United States of America. Shame on him. Shame on him. But it all brings me to Wales, where today I've been out meeting with Welsh farmers. Not only threaten these family farms, run for generations in many cases, and maintaining our amazing countryside, and threatened not just with Rachel Reeves's punitive inheritance tax, but now, and this has happened, hasn't it? Anything national government can get wrong, the Labour Party in Cardiff can always make worse. And they do it with everything. They do it with everything. So there was a new farming scheme, a new sustainability farming scheme that Welsh farmers are pretty much being strong-armed, nay, blackmailed into signing up to. And it says they have to plant an awful lot of trees, and that should be their priority over food production. Now, I like trees, but I'd rather Welsh farmers got on with doing what they've always done and farmed and produced food for the marketplace. But to qualify for the grant, they now have to meet 12 key criteria, 12 key tasks they must put in place and report online monthly to make sure that they have fulfilled them. I'll share one or two of the gems with you. They have to put forward designated site management plans, including AgriSGOP, e-learning, mentoring, an advisory service. We then go on to accredited training, surgery, e-learning again. Oh, and this one, I love this one. Habitat maintenance, all right. Hedgerow management, we're okay with that. Yeah, that's okay. Benchmarking. What in God's name is benchmarking?